With 2023 going off with a bang, with the Dead Space remake, I've had this thought for a couple days, with of course the RE4 remake coming, and with the new Metroid Prime remaster that we saw with the Nintendo Direct a few days ago. And that, of course, is are remakes and remasters becoming way too common in the gaming space currently? But before we jump into that question to be answered, if you enjoy topics pertaining to Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, then this channel is for you. So consider subscribing and joining our community that is being built right here on this channel. That, of course, gets into discussions on the videos like what you're watching today. So please comment below what you think of this topic when you're finished with the video. So let's get back into it. Now, okay, with 2023 looking like a great year for games, two of the most anticipated games of the year are, of course, remakes, with Resident Evil 4 and, of course, the already released Dead Space remake, which was awesome and really good. Something we didn't know we need, and it really well earned its place in our gaming sphere for this year. So I highly recommend you check out the video I did for that. I will have it linked at the end of this video, so please check that out. And, of course, I just wonder, are remakes becoming too popular? And I mean, what I mean by that is when studios that have a catalog of popular titles from the past that people would love to see again from, of course, previous console generations, and they look to the drawing board to kind of figure out what's next due to with investors, and of course they kind of combine with that to kind of get greenlit for projects or titles. I worry that instead of trying to create a new IP that can define a console generation, they're just going to instead turn to remaking one of their older titles to make the cash and potentially continue down that path. Now, I want to make it known, of course, I really do. I want to express this, that I do not hate remakes. I love remakes. I hope that a lot of games I love from the past are remade. I would really like to see an Army of Two remake or remaster. I love that first game. I even love the 40th Day, and they're stuck on the PlayStation 3, and I would love to have them on modern consoles to play with my buddies and introduce them into that world. But of course, we have the problem where games are not being ported over due to either just old hardware, or in PlayStation's case, they want you to use emulators that are streamed onto your console, which is really weird, but that's a whole nother video. The only reason I have this fear is because we have games like this where Guerrilla Games, there's a rumor going around that they are remastering the first Horizon Zero Dawn that came out on the PlayStation 4 only like 3 or 4 years ago. That looks great. Why would we remaster that? That's a waste of time and energy. Why? Just port it over. I just like, I can understand why Last of Us Part 1 got remade or remastered, I guess, but Horizon Zero Dawn? No. No. It's just, it's a waste of time when you could be developing new IP or even remastering some of your older games that you have in your catalog. You're just wasting time of the studios as well. I mean, I've just become increasingly worried that gaming for the next several years will be defined by remakes. Like, could you imagine that half the titles that release are just remakes? And there's, like, imagine 8 titles released in a year that are AAA. 4 of those are remakes, and the other 4 are original IP. And of course, with the original IP, you don't know if they're going to be good or not, because, I mean, that's a gamble, of course, an IP that is coming out new. I mean, even with remasters, of course, I mean, that's games in general, but it's like with remasters or remakes, you're kind of playing it safe because you've got the source material. You've really just got to make it, tune it up a little bit and put out a new polished product, or do what Motive did and make a really good product that builds off the original, or even the Resident Evil 2 remake that builds off the original, but also keeps what's great about it. I'm really worried that remakes are becoming too popular to where it's going to be the investors who are making that call to where the developers don't want to do that. They're going to be pushed into a corner, and of course you're going to get games that are buggy, crappy, and just taint the original experience that you were hoping to gain from this remake of a title. And I just don't want to see that for games that we really beloved. Like, it's like, can you imagine if Shadow of the Colossus got a remake? It was terrible. I mean, that's like a legendary game, and that would ruin a lot of it. I mean, for example, with Hogwarts Legacy, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but there are terrible performance issues on PC. I don't want to have the performance issue in a remake like Hogwarts Legacy has, and that really hurts what's a great game. But of course, due to performance issues, no one wants to play it on their selective PC, and so you're losing that audience that would be engrossed and would grow onto the product that maybe you'd gain new fans from, like EA Motive did with Dead Space. I know I'm talking about them a lot. I just really like that remake. But I was on a tangent. Let's get back to it. When do I think this really started, though? In my opinion, I really felt like this started when Capcom, of course, released the legendary Resident Evil 2 remake. Now, while you could argue this began earlier with other remakes, maybe like the Resident Evil 1 remake, or even when they ported Shadow of the Colossus over to PlayStation 4, or X, Y, and Z. I feel like these remakes and remasters really began to create steam when Capcom released Resident Evil 2. I mean, this remaster, ever since release, up to 2022, has sold over 10 million copies. And I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's crazy. And I mean, that's just when I really feel like this began. This affected every part of the games industry. I mean, we would see this with Call of Duty as Modern Warfare got a full reboot and would go on to become very popular. And then, of course, we saw The Last of Us and the GTA series, of course, get a remaster, which is fine. That, of course, is easier because you're just remastering the game, while these remakes, of course, are changing things and also adding things to give their own spin on it and also create a new dynamic experience that people love. And I mean, with all these remakes going on and happening in recent years, it just brings fear that we will get more remakes every year, which will become more than original content being created. But that might not be the case. And why is that? Money. Two of the most recent remakes slash remasters, being The Last of Us Part 1 and Dead Space, did not sell as well as thought. Dead Space Remake would make about half of what its competitor, the Callisto Protocol, did. While The Last of Us did not really peak in sales until, of course, the HBO show was released that just came out. So while there are fears of remakes becoming more and more popular and dominating the market, it seems that might not be the case due to the sales not being as well as hoped, which investors might not greenlight due to this problem. But of course, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is an outlier, and that has sold over 2 million copies, which shows if the series is well beloved, then players will flock to it. Gaming, of course, when it comes to new IP, is a huge risk. I mean, we've seen that with Forspoken, which flopped tremendously due to the dialogue, and of course, the game just wasn't what people wanted. Or even seeing how established franchises that have been destroyed into the ground, like Halo. I mean, look at Infinite now. It's insane. Infinite really tanked. And I mean, that sucks, man. That sucks because I was really hoping Halo Infinite was good, but 343 is where they're at today. But again, remakes and remasters are great to see old beloved titles brought to new life in the current graphical fidelity world, but they can destroy creativity and the drive for new IP competition, as these remakes and remasters can sell well enough to keep the companies happy and complacent, which is not good for the games industry, as the best games come out of uncertainty. I mean, you think about all your favorite games. A lot of them happened when a company their back was to the wall and they needed something to put them back afloat. And you get legendary titles like Halo 2. That was a tumultuous development just due to studio issues. I recommend you watch the Halo 2 developer documentary they made. It's really interesting and it really defines what happened during the development to make that game. And I just, honestly, I feel like these remakes can sell well enough to keep companies happy and complacent, which is not good for the games industry. Because remakes can really hurt the creativity and drive for a studio. But I feel that remakes, of course, are perfect for the current generation of graphical fidelity. So I'm trying to get some positive in here because I just was a little negative. And the reason I believe that is because we are at a point where any game from the 2000s or even early 2010s could be remastered. I mean, again, we've seen this with the Dead Space remake, as what was thought to be a game that really didn't need to be remastered was proven that it needed to be remastered, and then some. I mean, you can explore the USG Ishimura freely, no loading screens. It's awesome. And that was one thing that proved that. You could go through that ship full without loading screens. You could visit it. You could go back through the ship, unlike the original. Remakes are also doing something very cool, which is they are remapping certain story beats in their games to create whole new storylines that are similar enough not to alienate new fans, but draw all the older fans back in. Of course, the Final Fantasy remakes are a popular example of this, where they remake part of the story to draw the older players back in, and of course, bring new ones into this new storyline, but also encourage them to go to the back catalog of these games. It's a very cool thing they do. Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 looks like they're kind of doing that. They've changed some things that didn't happen in the original, and it's very cool to see. While they are very faithful, they changed some things up to bring the original fans and the new fans along for the ride to keep them invested. I mean, it's very cool to see that remakes have become as popular as they are, but the fear is that they will become too important and they will become stagnant, and remakes won't be exciting anymore. They'll be this dominant part of our industry that just brings like a sigh because it's like, oh, another remake. Great. And I just feel like if we see more devs remake games, we see less growth in new IP and what can be genre defining games that reshape how games are developed. And I just don't want to see that with what would become a stagnant market with remakes. And people would, I mean, could you imagine one of your favorite games from a decade ago is getting a remaster, but you've played like 30 remasters since, and you're all tired of the remakes and remasters, and you just kind of sigh and you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll buy it. You're not excited for that title because it's been nailed in the head of like remake, 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 remake. You know, it's just like, let's hope that remakes take a little back seat after these two that release. Give them a little break. Let's let the new IPs come in. Then let's get back on the remake train. If we can really dolly them out incrementally, then we'll have good product on our hands, and also good time to let new IP develop and kind of marinate. And these remakes can kind of go into the middle of those and really flesh out the next couple years of gaming. So, of course, that's all I've got for you guys. I wanted to provide you guys with an update with Hogwarts Legacy. I got a little behind. Hogwarts Legacy actually has a issue on PC, so I had to get it on PS5. I'm getting through the game, just caught up to where I was. I will have the game finished, hopefully, by the end of the week. We will see. Due to school kind of picking up, we will see to that. But I will try to keep videos out Wednesday and Friday. I do want to apologize. Last Friday I did not upload. I had a terrible cold that you might hear I'm still trying to get over. So I apologize for that lack of video for Friday, but of course I've got this video coming out Monday, so I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you guys, of course, like the video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell to, of course, be updated when I upload next. And to everyone who's watching, fans who are returning and new fans, hopefully joining the amazing community. See you in the next one. Peace.